Welcome to One-on-One with Jomara. Our special guest this morning is George Milacek, and he's a master gardener. I think this is one of my favorite shows. Every time we talked about gardens, I really enjoy that. So George, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I tried to get my wife, Louise, because she's a natural for TV, and she definitely said no. So here I am. You got to put up with me this morning.
Well, we say hi to you, Louise, from our Good Morning Enid show. Now, George, let's talk about fall planting. What are the benefits of planting during the fall season?
Well, I'll tell you what, when you go out to the nurseries and the retail stores that sell plants, in the springtime you have all of these truckloads of everything. And so a lot of people do their spring planting. The fall planting is actually an advantage because what you do is you put the plant in and you have all fall, even into wintertime, for that plant to develop its roots. And then in the springtime, when it's time for the leaves to come out or the flowers, then you don't stress that plant so much because it has its base already in the root system. And in the spring, what you're doing, you're growing roots and you're growing foliage at the same time. And that puts a lot of stress on some plants. So fall is the best time to plant shrubs, trees, perennials.
So speaking of shrubs and trees and other plants, what tend to do better if planted? Everything, or is it a special kind of plant or shrub that you recommend?
There are some trees that I wouldn't recommend for Oklahoma. And but the ones that I really like are the oaks, except for pin oaks. You do not want to plant pin oaks in Garfield County because our soil is not acidic enough. You get to Stillwater, and east of there, they do well. But all the other oaks really are good, and they're a strong structured tree, and you don't have the ice storm damages that you have with other trees, which we're going to have again. And then I like the lace bark elm, which is an old tree, and it's different than what, most people call the old elm it's actually the Siberian elm, okay? And it's a trash tree. You don't want to plant it. And then there are some maples that are really good, but you do not want to plant silver maples because they're a trash tree. Shrubs, there's a wide variety of shrubs, and basically they will do well if you take care of them.
And what about flowers?
And your perennials, now is the time to plant your bulbs. Iris bulbs, tulip bulbs, and those kind of things, because then that's when they bloom in the spring. And so you want to establish the root system for them also. And so then there are, pansies. A lot of people like to plant pansies in the fall, and they are good. And they, especially if you have a southern exposure, they'll last all winter, even into the spring.
And what about roses?
You can plant them now, okay? Some people tend to cut them back in the winter time. It depends. Last winter, we really didn't have the severe cold weather that can damage roses if you cut them back in the fall. And so we've been cutting our roses back in the fall, and we've been getting by with it. But if you have shrubs that have overgrown during the summer, now's the time to kind of trim them back, get them back in shape. Yes.
And speaking of pruning and trimming, is this a good time to do that for your big trees as well? Just checking on limbs that might be loose.
You should probably wait till we have a freeze when the trees lose their leaves, because then the sap goes back into the root system. And then you can also see the branches that crisscross, and you need to trim those out. It's a lot easier to do it after the trees are bare. But it's a good time to do it.
Now, what best practices do you recommend for taking care of the garden, not just during the fall, but as winter comes in? What can we do? Is there anything at all that we can do?
Yes, there is. If you have flower gardens and so on, the best thing to do is to mulch. that protects the moisture, and then also it will protect some of your plants that are maybe more susceptible to some freeze damage.
Okay.
And it's just a layer of protection that you want to do. You cannot over mulch.
All right.
Yes.
That's good. Now, I remember last year during our ice storm, most of the trees, or the year before, most of the trees still had the leaves on. And so I think...
That's what causes the big damage.
Okay.
Because the ice forms on those leaves. You know, we had this ice storm last November around Thanksgiving. And there was a lot of damage done. But you can recover those trees if you go in there and cut the damaged limbs off. Most time they'll come back.
And what if the tree fell completely and the root system is out of the ground? If you put that back, will that survive, or?
Firewood.
Firewood.
Yes.
Well, I had to try. I had to ask you that one.
Yes, I know it. Yeah, if it's uprooted, you might as well just get rid of it.
Okay.
Yes.
And what about watering our garden during the fall?
That is important,
Okay.
because even though the weather is cooler, you need to make sure that particularly your shrubs have adequate water. Your lawns, you shouldn't water them like you do in the summertime, because you're wasting water if you do that. But you need to go out there, you need to check your soil, and if it is dry, give it a shot of water.
Okay.
And then that insulates that plant.
And do we still water in the morning time? Is the best
That's
time
good.
to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is usually better, because then it allows that water to dry off of the plants. Because you can still get into some fungus problems with some plants.
During the fall?
During the fall, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And also, a little bit about if you're planting vegetables during the fall, is there anything going on, anything that you can suggest?
Yes, there are. Turnips is a good time to plant in the fall.
Okay.
Lettuce and spinach, radishes, okay, those are spring plants and fall plants. And but you know, if you're going to think about planting corn or peas or cucumbers, no, no, it's too late for that.
Okay, okay, but at least there's a little bit of planting to do.
Yes, and if you
vegetable-wise.
have a raised bed and you can put plastic over that raised bed, you can have spinach and lettuce go clear into the winter time.
Okay.
And so, you know, it gives you the fresh vegetables.
Okay, George, if people want to know more about planting, who can they contact?
Well, they need to, we've got a wealth of information. We've got a big library at the Extension Center.
Okay, and the Extension Center is where?
It's on Hoover.
Okay.
And Steve will probably put the phone number back up on there so people can call. And we have master gardeners that man the phones, not always. And if there's not anyone to answer the phone, there's always someone in the office that will. And we'll take the information, and then they'll give it to us, and we'll get back with them. And we'll try to answer their questions.
Well, great. As you can see, the phone number on the screen, just give them a call, and someone will help you with any questions that you have regarding gardening for this area.
Yes.
Okay. Well, George, thank you so much for visiting with us. We appreciate your time and your knowledge. If you want your garden to be beautiful during the spring, so now is the time to start planning.
Now, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching One-on-One with Jomara.